So there you are. I've been looking all over for you, and now I see you, taller than I remember. You're weathered in ways I never could have imagined. You move through the world with this odd mix of being careful and being reckless. You watch your steps, but you leave your heart wide open. Do you even recognize me? It's me. The younger version of you. The one with scraped-up knees and shaky hands. The one who used to lie awake at night, wondering if this constant ache would ever go away. When I watch you now, I'm amazed that we even made it this far, that we survived long enough to become who you are today. Every night I used to wish I could grow into someone with your kind of strength, your ability to bounce back. Even when you're barely holding yourself together, you keep going. I watch the battles you fight in the quiet corners of your life, and I think to myself, someday I'll have that same fire inside me. I've often wondered what I would have done if I had been in your shoes. If I had faced the things you face, would I have completely fallen apart? Would I have just disappeared? But you're still here. You keep saying yes to another day, even when just existing feels like a violent act. That kind of courage leaves me speechless. I am you, just from an earlier chapter of the book, still hurting, still unsure, still wondering if this suffering has an end date. But seeing you standing there, knowing that eventually I'll arrive where you are, that gives me something I didn't have before. Hope. You might not always see it in yourself, but from where I'm standing, it's so clear. Every mark on your body is proof that you protected me from something even worse. Every step you take forward is a promise that my suffering will mean something in the end. I'm so incredibly proud of you, more than you could ever know. And when the darkness closes in around you so tightly that you can't even see your own hand, please hold on to this thought. You're not fighting this battle alone. I'm right here with you, the child inside you, still rooting for you. And because I believe in you so completely, I need you to understand what I see. Not just the brilliance that shines from you, but also the weight you try so hard to hide, the struggles you think no one notices. I see the wounds you carry, the ones you hide under your clothes and behind a forced smile. From where I am, they're not signs of weakness. They're evidence. Evidence that you walked through fire and came out whole enough to keep going. Evidence that every injury became a line you refused to cross. I notice the choices you agonize over when the world gets quiet. You call them failures, but I see them as tools you use to navigate your way here. Every mistake you punish yourself for is just another path that led you to this very moment. And I wouldn't trade this moment for anything. Because right now, you're breathing. Right now, you're standing. And that's everything. You look at yourself through a lens of damage and imperfection. But I see something completely different. I see a container that has weathered every storm that tried to break it. I see the person I used to dream of becoming back when I was too young to really understand what survival requires. Here's what you need to understand. When you're convinced you have nothing left to give, remember that you are my reason to keep going. Every breath you take proves to me that this pain is only temporary. Every step forward shows me that growing up doesn't mean giving up. And when you stumble, when you break, when you fall apart, I don't see failure. I see someone who refuses to quit. And I love you for that determination. You might think you're all alone in this fight, but that's never been true. I'm here with you, the younger you, still watching, still growing, still believing. I'll never leave you alone in your silence, in your chaos, in your quiet victories. My pride in you will never fade. But here's what most people don't understand about the relationship between who you were and who you've become. It's not just some sentimental idea, it's quantum reality. When you acknowledge the child within you, when you truly see them and honor what they went through, something shifts in your consciousness. You're not just remembering the past. You're literally changing the energy of every moment that brought you here. Think about it. That younger version of you exists not just in your memory, but as a real living presence within you. Every cell in your body has been replaced many times since you were that child. Yet somehow, the emotional marks remain. The fear is still there. The hope is still there. The wondering is still there because consciousness doesn't follow the same rules as matter. Your younger self isn't gone. They're woven into the very fabric of who you are right now, influencing how you react, what you believe, and what you think is possible. And here's where it gets really interesting. When you turn toward that younger self with kindness instead of shame, When you stop trying to leave them behind and instead bring them forward with love, you're not just healing the past. You're literally rewriting the energetic blueprint that's been running your life. You're changing the way you vibrate, and that vibration determines what you attract, what you notice, what opportunities come your way, and what relationships you form. Most people spend their entire lives trying to run away from their younger selves, trying to be so different, so much better, so evolved that they can finally leave behind the pain of who they used to be. But that's a trap, because the younger you doesn't need to be left behind. They need to be brought in. They need to be seen. They need to be told that they weren't wrong for feeling what they felt, for struggling the way they struggled, for surviving in the only way they knew how. And when you do that, when you bridge that gap between then and now with real awareness, something amazing happens. The shame starts to disappear. The self-judgment starts to soften. That constant feeling that you're not good enough, that you should be further along, that you're somehow broken, that starts to fade because you finally understand that you were always whole. Even in the breaking, you were whole. Even in the confusion, you were complete. Even in the pain, you were perfect. Let me tell you what nobody talks about when they talk about inner child work or healing your past. It's not about going back to old wounds so you can pick at them until they bleed again. It's about understanding that the younger you was paying attention to everything. They were turning possibility into reality with every belief they formed, every conclusion they came to, every decision they made about what life was and what they were worth. And those observations, those possibilities that became real, they became the foundation of your current reality. So when you were young, and you decided, maybe without even realizing it, that you weren't safe, that love came with conditions, that you had to earn your place in the world, that you had to be perfect to be worthy, those weren't just thoughts. Those were acts of creation. You were literally building the structure of your adult experience. And now, years later, you're still living inside a structure that was designed by someone who didn't have all the information, who was working with limited data, who was doing their absolute best with what they had. But here's what sets you free. You're not stuck in that structure. You can renovate it, you can rebuild it, you can update the plans, not by rejecting your younger self, but by talking to them, by asking them what they needed back then that they didn't get, by giving them now what they were missing then, by showing them that the conclusions they came to were understandable, but not necessarily true. And this isn't just some idea from psychology. This is quantum mechanics applied to consciousness. When you pay attention to something, you change it. When you bring awareness to something, it transforms. When you shine a light into a dark corner, the darkness doesn't fight back. It just reveals what was always there waiting to be seen. So, right now, as you're reading this, I want you to do something. I want you to really feel the presence of your younger self, not as a memory, but as a living energy inside you. Where do you feel them? Is it in your chest, your throat, your stomach? Just notice it. Don't judge it. Don't try to fix it. Just notice. Because that feeling, that tightness or heaviness or ache, that's not a problem to be solved. That's a message. That's your younger self trying to get your attention, trying to tell you something you need to hear. And most of the time, what they're trying to tell you is very simple. I'm still here, I still matter, please don't forget me in your rush to become someone else. And when you pause like this, when you really listen, you create a bridge between your past and your present. You create harmony within yourself. And harmony is everything. Because when your past and present are at war, when part of you is trying to move forward while another part is stuck in yesterday, you split your energy. You divide your power. You send mixed signals to the universe around you. And then you wonder why it's so hard to get what you want, why change feels impossible, why you keep repeating the same patterns over and over. But when you bring all of yourself into alignment, when the child and the adult are finally on the same team, when your past and present are working together instead of against each other, that's when everything changes. That's when you stop acting from a place of lack and start acting from a place of wholeness. That's when you stop looking for approval from others and start realizing your own worth. That's when you stop waiting for permission and start taking what's already yours. If this is making you think differently, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can keep hearing this kind of stuff. Now, I want you to stop for a second, take a deep breath, and write a comment below with these exact words. I see you, younger me, and I'm bringing you home. Not just as something you say, but as something you really feel, as a message to the universe that you're ready to bring in what you've been pushing away. As a real break in the cycle of shame or being abandoned or judging yourself that might have been going on for years. Go ahead, write that comment now. I see you, younger me, and I'm bringing you home. Because here's what happens when you say those words. You stop being split. You stop fighting yourself. You stop trying to prove that you're different from who you used to be. And you start realizing that who you used to be is the foundation of who you're becoming. Not a foundation to be destroyed, but a foundation to be honored and built upon. And your younger self, they notice. They feel it when you stop running. They feel it when you turn around and offer your hand instead of turning your back. They feel it when you say, "You're not too much. You're not too broken. You're not too damaged. You're exactly what I needed to become who I am." Think about all the ways you've been told to deal with your past. You're supposed to just let it go, right? You're supposed to get rid of it, rise above it. But what if that's been the problem all along? What if letting go has just been another way of abandoning yourself? What if your younger self doesn't need to be let go of, they need to be taken back? There's a big difference, and it changes everything. Letting go means pushing away. Retrieving means bringing close. Letting go means you're still treating your past as something bad that needs to be thrown away. Retrieving means you're seeing your past as something valuable that needs to be brought in. And bringing it in, really bringing it in, doesn't mean you have to relive the pain. It doesn't mean you have to make a big deal out of the trauma or put on a show of healing for everyone to see. It means you simply acknowledge what happened, you honor the strength it took to survive it, and you let that younger version of you finally rest, knowing that they did enough. They were enough, and they brought you here. Here's what I know to be true, and I've seen it happen in so many lives. The moment someone stops being ashamed of their younger self is the moment their whole world starts to change. Because shame is one of the heaviest, most limiting feelings you can have. It crushes possibility. It narrows your vision. It tells you that certain futures aren't open to you because of what happened in the past. But when you get rid of that shame, when you replace it with kindness, with understanding, with completely accepting what was, you literally open up your world. You find opportunities that you couldn't see before. You become attractive to experiences that weren't available before. Not because you did anything to deserve them, but because you stopped vibrating at a level that pushed them away. This is where thoughts and science stop being just ideas and start becoming real. Your emotional state isn't just how you feel, it's how you see the world. It's the level at which you send your message to the world. It's what draws things into your life. And when you go from shame to kindness, from pushing away to bringing in, from being split to being whole, you change everything. Your younger self knows this. They've been trying to tell you this the whole time, every time you feel that ache in your chest, every time you have that dream where you're back in your childhood home, every time you overreact to something small. That's not a problem. That's communication. That's your system trying to get you to pay attention to what still needs to be seen, what still needs to be heard, what still needs to be loved. And the great thing is, you don't have to go back in time to do this. You don't have to dig up every memory or feel every emotion. You just have to be here now with the younger you who still lives inside your body, inside your mind, inside the way you breathe when you're scared, or the way you hold your shoulders when you're trying to make yourself small. So, here's what I'm asking you to do. Not just a one-time thing, but a real connection. A daily talk with the part of you that time has passed by but never left behind. And this talk doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as checking in. Hey, younger me, what do you need today? What are you feeling? What do you want me to know? And then you listen, not with your head, but with your body. Because your younger self doesn't speak in words. They speak in feelings, in tightness, in comfort, in the way your breathing changes when you ask the question. And when you learn their language, when you become good at understanding your own inner world, you stop feeling crazy or broken or too sensitive. You start feeling together, connected, whole. And from that place of wholeness, from that place of kindness and internal peace, you become unstoppable. Not in a loud, forceful way that the world teaches, but in a quiet, strong way, the way of someone who knows exactly who they are and isn't sorry for any of it anymore. Someone who has made peace with their past and is now free to create their future. without the weight of shame or unhealed pain. If what I'm saying here feels true to you, if you can feel it in your body rather than just understanding it in your head, then I want to invite you to subscribe, not just to this channel, but to this way of thinking, to this place where we're not interested in easy answers or pretending everything's okay, where we're dedicated to the real work of understanding ourselves, the work of becoming whole. Because the more of us who do this, the more we create a world where healing isn't rare, it's normal. Where wholeness isn't something you have to earn, it's something you remember. Now here's where this gets even more interesting. When you bring in your younger self, when you stop pushing away parts of your history and start accepting your whole journey, you don't just heal yourself, you heal your family. Because the patterns you're carrying, the wounds you're dealing with, they didn't start with you. They were passed down from generation to generation through how people acted, through what they believed, through the unwritten rules of your family. Your grandmother's fear became your mother's worry, became your being on guard all the time. Your grandfather's anger became your father's coldness, became your trouble with getting close to people. These patterns move through families like water through the ground, hidden but shaping everything, and most people never question them. They just think, this is how life is, this is who they are, this is what they deserve. But you, by doing this, by turning to your younger self with understanding and kindness, you're not just changing your own life. You're stopping the pattern. You're becoming the one who breaks the cycle, the one who says, this stops with me, this gets healed here. This doesn't go any further. And that's not selfish. That's not just about you, that's important work. That's the work that changes families, that improves communities, that eventually changes the world. Because every person who does their own work, who faces their pain instead of passing it on, who chooses awareness over ignoring things, they raise the energy for everyone. They make it easier for the next person to wake up. They make it okay for others to be honest about their struggles. So when your younger self looks at you with those big eyes full of questions they never got to ask, full of needs they never got to say, full of dreams they had to put off, they're not asking you to go back and change what happened. They're asking you to be here now and accept that it did happen, that it mattered, that they matter, and that despite everything, despite all the ways life tried to break them, they made it. You made it. You are the proof that they survived. Let that sink in for a minute. You are the evidence of your own strength. Your younger self looked into a scary future and kept going anyway. And now you're living in what used to be there someday. And yeah, maybe it doesn't look exactly how they imagined. Maybe there's more going on, more complicated things, more things that aren't so clear than they could have known. But you're here, and that matters more than any specific thing they were hoping for. Because here's the truth that took me years to learn. Your younger self wasn't just hoping to get to a certain place. They were hoping to become someone who could handle whatever life threw at them, someone who wouldn't fall apart at the first sign of trouble, someone who could feel deeply and still keep going, someone who could be hurt and still choose to love. And look at you. You became that person. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not without scars, but you became them. Every time you got back up, you proved them right. Every time you chose honesty over pretending, being open over hiding, being present over shutting down, you showed that they were right to believe in you. Every time you let yourself cry, really cry, not just a few tears, but the kind of crying that shakes your whole body and comes from a place you didn't know existed, you honored their pain. Every time you let yourself laugh, really laugh, the kind that makes your stomach hurt and your face ache, you honored their joy. And here's what nobody tells you about this journey of coming together. It doesn't happen all at once. You don't just have one talk with your younger self and suddenly everything's fixed. It keeps going. It's a spiral. You'll think you've healed something, and then 6 months later, it comes back in a different form, asking to be seen from a different point of view, asking you to go deeper. And that's not failing. That's not you doing it wrong. That's just how it works. It's not about reaching some perfect state of being healed. It's about building a connection with your own depth, your own complexity, your own humanity. It's about being okay with the fact that you're never done. You're always growing. You're always finding new parts of yourself that need attention. And your younger self, they understand that. They're not expecting you to have all the answers. They're just happy you're trying. They're just relieved you're not pretending anymore. They're just happy you finally slowed down enough to notice they were there, that they never left. that they've been waiting all this time for you to remember them. Now, what we're talking about today is just one part of a much bigger picture of how we work with energy and understanding ourselves. If you're interested in understanding how your inner state creates your outer reality, how these energies really work, and how to go from sending out pain without realizing it to sending out wholeness on purpose, I've put everything together in a guide called Beyond the Frequencies, a guide to mastering consciousness. It walks you through the 9 main types of energy, the steps for going from looking for things outside yourself to finding them within, and the scientific reasons why you become the world around you instead of just living in it. It's linked in the comment below. So, what does this look like in real life? How do you really connect with your younger self in a way that's meaningful, that you can feel, that changes your life? It starts with being present, with being willing to feel what you've been avoiding, to sit with the pain of emotions you haven't dealt with, to let the sadness flow through you instead of trying to push it away, to let the anger have its say instead of constantly trying to control it. It looks like letting yourself need what you need, even if it's not a good time, even if it's not what other people expect, even if it makes you feel weak. It looks like setting limits, not because you're trying to protect yourself, but because you respect yourself. It looks like choosing relationships that accept all of you, not just the good parts, but the messy parts too. It looks like taking care of yourself in the moments when you need it most. When you're scared, instead of pretending to be brave, you stop and you say, "I see that you're scared, and that's okay. We're going to get through this together." When you're overwhelmed, instead of feeling ashamed that you can't handle it, you admit that it's a lot. And it makes sense that you're feeling this way. Let's take it one step at a time. This is the conversation your younger self has been waiting for. Not the show of healing, not the perfect version of change that you see online, but the real, not always pretty, sometimes uncomfortable work of being there for yourself when no one else is, when there's no one to impress, when the only reward is the feeling that things are starting to come together inside. And as you do this, as you commit to really connecting with yourself, you'll start to see things change. The patterns that used to control you, you start to break free from them. The things that used to set you off start to lose their power. The stories you used to tell yourself about who you are and what you can do start to fade away, showing something more real underneath. You realize you're not just the sum of your worst moments. You're not defined by your mistakes or your struggles or the things that happened to you. You're the awareness that has been watching all of it, learning from all of it and choosing what to create next of it, flourishing through all of it. And that awareness, that consciousness, that's the real you. Everything else is just life's little storms passing by. Your younger self understands this on a profound level, deeper than words can express. They remember how it felt before doubt crept in, before you adopted other people's limitations, before you started to think that who you are wasn't enough. They remember the original you, the one who hadn't yet learned to dim their own light to make others feel comfortable, the one who hadn't yet started putting on a show just to earn love. And that version of you, that essential self, isn't gone. They're simply buried beneath layers of conditioning, adaptation, and survival tactics that might have made sense then, but no longer serve you. And the work of integrating those parts of yourself is really about excavating the real you, removing the things that were never truly yours so you can rediscover what was always there, the truth of who you are. This is why connecting with your younger self is so important, because they hold the key to your authentic self. They remember who you were before the world started telling you who to be. And when you reconnect with them, when you bring them to the forefront instead of leaving them behind, you reclaim parts of yourself that you thought were lost forever. The creativity you had before someone told you you weren't talented. The confidence you had before someone made you feel insignificant. The openness you had before someone betrayed your trust. The joy you had before someone taught you that happiness was something to be earned instead of simply experienced. All of that is still inside you. All of that is still accessible. It's just waiting for you to turn around and invite it back into your life. Now, as we approach the end of our time together, I want you to do something specific. I want you to write one word in the comments below. Just a single word that captures the essence of the energy you're choosing to embody as you move forward. Not the energy you think you should choose, but the energy you genuinely feel drawn to. Maybe it's compassion, maybe it's courage, maybe it's freedom, authenticity, or peace. Whatever resonates with you, drop that word as your energetic signature into the universe, as a declaration of the person you're becoming. Go ahead and do that now. Because here's what happens when you make that kind of conscious commitment. You transform from being a passive recipient of whatever life throws your way to being an active co-creator of your own experiences. You stop waiting for external circumstances to improve, and you start transforming your internal landscape, the lens through which you view those circumstances, and that internal shift. That's where true, lasting transformation begins. Your younger self can sense this shift. They can feel when you stop battling yourself and start living from a place of wholeness. They can feel when you stop striving for perfection and embrace being authentic. They can feel when you stop performing and simply exist. And in that feeling, in that moment of recognition, something old and weary inside you finally gets to rest, because you have been carrying them for so long, trying to protect them, trying to prove to them that life would get better, trying to show them that all that pain served a purpose. And now you can finally tell them the truth. It did lead somewhere. It led here to this moment, to this awareness, to this ability to see yourself clearly and love yourself anyway. And if you're ready to stay connected to this mindset, to continue exploring the intersections of consciousness and healing, of science and spirituality, of transformation and integration, then I encourage you to subscribe, not just to stay informed, but to stay connected, to stay aligned with your true self, to stay in this space where we prioritize depth over distraction, truth over comfort, wholeness over pretending. Because the more of us who choose this path, the more we normalize it, the more we make it acceptable to be human, to be imperfect, to be a work in progress, the more we create a world where healing isn't something to hide, but something to be celebrated, where vulnerability isn't a weakness but the ultimate act of bravery, where integration isn't just an abstract spiritual concept, but a lived everyday practice. This is the world your younger self dreamed of, where they could be seen and accepted and loved exactly as they were, where they didn't have to earn their place or prove their value or hide their pain, where they could just be completely and unapologetically themselves. And you're building that world now, not in some distant future, but right here, in your own body, in your own mind, in your own willingness to embrace all the parts of yourself that you have been taught to reject. That's the real revolution, that's the real transformation, that's the profound shift that changes everything. But let me share something that might surprise you. This relationship with your younger self isn't just about healing what's broken. It's also about reclaiming what was never broken to begin with. Because somewhere along the line, you learn to view your sensitivity as a weakness, your emotional depth as instability, your intuition as irrationality, your need for connection as clinginess. And none of that was ever true. Your younger self knew this before the world convinced you otherwise. They knew that feeling deeply wasn't a flaw, it was a gift. They knew that caring intensely wasn't too much, it was exactly right. They knew that your ability to sense what others couldn't see wasn't strange, it was sacred. And then life happened, people happened, rejection happened, disappointment happened. And slowly, gradually, you learned to distrust the very qualities that made you who you are. You learned to apologize for taking up space. You learned to minimize your needs so others would find you more appealing. You learned to act in a way that was more acceptable, more easily digestible, more convenient for everyone else. And in the process, you lost touch with the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. But your younger self remembers. They remember how it felt before you started censoring yourself, before you started questioning every impulse, before you started dissecting every interaction to figure out what you did wrong. They remember the freedom of simply existing, without the constant internal commentary, the exhausting mental self-monitoring, the fear that who you are might be too much or not enough. And here's what I want you to truly understand. When you reconnect with your younger self, you're not just healing from past wounds, you're also rediscovering your natural state. The state you were in before conditioning, before societal pressures, before you internalized everyone else's opinions and made them your identity. You're remembering what it feels like to be authentically you, without the layers of protection, performance, and adaptation. This is why so many people cry when they first genuinely connect with their younger self, not just because of the pain they're acknowledging, but because of the innocence they're reclaiming. The purity of being that existed before things got complicated. The simplicity of knowing what you wanted without having to justify it. The clarity of feeling what you felt without needing to explain it. And as you reclaim this, as you bring this unconditioned awareness back into your adult life, something changes in how you navigate the world. You stop seeking external validation because you've reconnected with your inner compass. You stop performing for approval because you've remembered that your worth is inherent and non-negotiable. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable because you've reclaimed your right to be fully present. This doesn't mean you become selfish or inconsiderate. It means you become honest. It means you stop betraying yourself to maintain relationships that require you to be less than you are. It means you start honoring your truth, even when it's inconvenient. It means you give yourself permission to be human, flawed, imperfect, and still inherently valuable. Your younger self has been waiting for this permission. They've been waiting for you to stop trying so hard, to stop proving and performing and perfecting, to stop apologizing for existing, to stop believing that love is something you have to earn rather than something you naturally deserve. And when you finally grant yourself this permission, when you finally extend this grace to the younger you who never received it, everything transforms. The relationships that were built on your compliance start to feel suffocating. The situations where you had to hide parts of yourself start to feel unbearable. The patterns where you gave more than you received start to feel unsustainable. And instead of viewing this as a problem, you start to see it as clarity. As your system finally having the strength to say no to what doesn't serve you, so you can say yes to what does. This is the recalibration that occurs when you integrate your younger self. You're no longer acting from a wounded place that will do anything to avoid abandonment. You're operating from a place of wholeness that recognizes abandoning yourself is far worse than being abandoned by anyone else. You're no longer driven by the fear of being alone. You're guided by the commitment to being authentic, and that shift, that fundamental reorientation of your internal compass changes the entire course of your life. Because now you're not just surviving anymore. You're not just getting by. You're not just making things work. You're truly living. You're making choices based on what expands you rather than what keeps you safe. You're pursuing experiences that ignite your soul rather than experiences that others expect from you. You are building a life that feels true to you rather than a life that looks good to others. And your younger self, they can feel this shift happening. They can feel when you start prioritizing yourself, when you start trusting your intuition, when you start relying on your inner wisdom, when you start living from the inside out rather than the outside in. And in that feeling, something ancient and exhausted within them finally gets to breathe because they've been holding their breath, waiting to see if you would remember them, waiting to see if you would come back for them, waiting to see if you would choose truth over comfort, authenticity over acceptance, wholeness over approval. And now you're showing them that yes, you will. Yes, you are. Yes, you're finally ready to stop abandoning the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. This is the work that nobody prepared you for. This is the conversation nobody taught you how to have. This is the integration that the world doesn't even have adequate language for yet. But it's the most crucial work you'll ever do, because every other relationship in your life mirrors the relationship you have with yourself. Every external conflict reflects an internal division. Every repeating pattern is a message from the part of you that still craves to be seen. And when you engage in this work, when you turn toward your younger self with presence, compassion, and commitment, you don't just transform your own life. You shift the energy field for everyone around you. You model what integration looks like in practice. You demonstrate what it means to be truly whole. You show others that it's possible to confront your pain without being consumed by it, to acknowledge your wounds without being defined by them, to carry your history without being trapped by it. This is the ripple effect that often goes unmentioned. When one person does their inner work, truly does it, not just intellectually understands it or puts on a show for others, but actually lives and breathes it, it creates permission for others to do the same. It disrupts the collective agreement that we all have to pretend we're okay. It challenges the cultural belief that vulnerability is a sign of weakness. It offers living proof that wholeness is attainable, that integration is real, that you can become the person your younger self needed you to be. So as you move forward from here, as you close this video and return to your life, take them with you, your younger self. Don't leave them behind in this moment of reflection. Bring them into your next conversation, your next decision, your next moment of choice. Ask them what they need, listen to what they feel, respect what they know, because they've been trying to guide you all along through intuition, through feelings of unease, through the body's wisdom that your mind often tries to dismiss. They know what resonates with you. They know what energizes you and what depletes you. They know who's safe and who's not. They know when you're being dishonest with yourself. And when you finally start paying attention, when you finally start trusting that inner voice, your whole life begins to align. You stop forcing situations that aren't right for you. You stop putting up with things that don't honor you. You stop waiting for permission and start claiming what's already rightfully yours. Not from a place of ego or entitlement, but from the deep understanding that you are worthy simply because you exist, that your younger self always was, and you still are, and you always will be. Take a moment and share in the comments. What is one pattern or belief you were ready to let go of now that you've reconnected with your younger self? Your sharing encourages others to do the same. And that knowing, that unwavering sense of inherent worth, that's what your younger self has been waiting for you to remember. Not to achieve, not to earn, not to prove through accomplishments, just to remember. Because it was always true. It was true then. It's true now. And it will remain true no matter what comes next. So here's my final invitation to you. Stop trying to become someone your younger self would be proud of. You already are that person. With every breath you take, every morning you wake up and choose to try again, every moment you show compassion to yourself or others, every time you speak your truth even when it's difficult, you are that person. Your younger self isn't expecting you to be perfect. They're simply grateful that you're still here. They're just in awe of your ability to endure so much and still remain gentle, to hurt so deeply and still choose to love, to be broken so many times and still remain open. That's the true miracle. Not that you arrived at some perfect destination free of challenges, but that you learned to navigate those challenges with grace. Not that you transcended your humanity, but that you learned to embrace it fully. Not that you transformed into someone entirely different, but that you finally embraced being yourself. And in that becoming, in that integration, in that wholeness, you give your younger self the greatest gift imaginable, the gift of being seen, the gift of being valued, the gift of knowing that their survival mattered, their struggles had meaning, their pain wasn't in vain. If someone in your life is carrying the burden of their past and needs to hear this message, please share this video with them. When you pass along these positive vibrations, you're not just helping them, you're strengthening your own integration and creating an energetic wave that accelerates both of your transformations. What you give to others, you reinforce within yourself. You are the answer to every question they were too afraid to ask. You are the living proof that they needed to see. You are the future they were hoping for, even in the moments when hope seemed impossible. So take them with you into your joy, into your sorrow, into your uncertainty, into your journey of becoming. Take them with you and let them know, finally and forever, that they are home. They are safe, they are loved, and they always have been. Now, the integration you've begun today is just one aspect of understanding who you truly are beyond the self you've been conditioned to be. Because as you've reconnected with your younger self, you've actually been practicing something even more profound. Witnessing consciousness itself. The awareness that observes your thoughts, your emotions, your entire experience without being defined by any of them. To fully embody this integration, you need to understand the observer within you. The consciousness that existed before your younger self and will continue after this version of you. Watch. You are not who's behind your eyes. The observer explained, to discover the eternal awareness that's been watching this entire journey unfold, and why understanding this changes everything about how you relate to yourself and reality.